Hey everybody, sorry I'm having some mic issues, so I'm going to have to hold it up to my face like so. Um, let's see. As you saw, Isaac Newton, 8/1/2020 is the date. Yes, I'm just getting to this assignment, but that's okay. I'm going to finish out with a bang. All right, let's see. Case connection assignment unit number 2. Um, let's see. I'm just going to go ahead and read what I have here. Hello, Dr. Morris and classmates. I hope you all are well, and I pray that my words find you well. Also, I pray you are all observing safety precautions for you and your families throughout the pandemic. I know personally this has been a very trying time for me during this pandemic as an ICU nurse. I'm doing my best to get through this course material, but have struggled greatly. Case in point, as I'm just getting through this assignment. Either way, I am full steam ahead now, attempting to get through the coursework completed in the allotted time. On to the cases. I'm going to take a look. I read through all the cases, and I was most interested in cases 3 and 4. I personally find glucose metabolism and subsequently glycogen metabolism with the fourth case extremely interesting, and specifically with glucose metabolism of paramount importance in regarding to American diet and our lifestyle habits. Let's see, especially as it pertains to development of chronic diet-related diseases such as diabetes. Case number 3. Case number 3 I thought was super interesting. Let's see, in the first case, it says that we have a 5-year-old boy who's going to a pediatrician with a sickly appearance. He's presenting with common type 1 diabetes mellitus symptoms with persistent thirst and frequent urination. A 2014 article published in the Lancet described polydipsia, or excess thirst, polyphagia, excessive eating, and polyuria, excess urination. The classic trio of symptoms associated with disease onset, along with the overt hyperglycemia as diagnosed hallmarks in children and adolescents, and to a lesser extent, adults diagnosed with type 1 diabetes mellitus. References are going to be listed. In chapter 19 in our textbook, it describes type 1 diabetes as an impairment of the body's glucose tolerance as a result of decreased secretion of insulin because of progressive destruction of the pancreatic beta islet cells. This is suggestive of young patient of the young patient having a chronically decreased insulin level, which would ultimately result in a higher fasting blood glucose. And an elevated blood glucose level 1 hour after a glucose load. A study published in February of 2017 by the American Diabetes Association states that the abnormal insulin secretion can occur well before the diagnosis of type 1 diabetes and demonstrate a gradual decline beginning at least 2 years before diagnosis. It's also stated that the glucose levels are frequently elevated years before the diagnosis of type 1 diabetes. This would reaffirm the idea that the patient would have an elevated fasting blood glucose associated with the given serum insulin levels. Also, for that ADA reference is listed in the reference page. Two of the regulatory enzymes discussed with glucose metabolism in Chapter 19 of the textbooks are glucokinase that promotes increased hepatic utilization of glucose, and I also listed fructose 2,6 bisphosphate that stimulates glycolysis by activating phosphofructokinase 1 and inhibiting fructose 1,6 bisphosphatase in the presence of an abundance of glucose. The textbook reference is listed. Both of those enzymes would be at an increased activity level given the patient's condition. As a funny side note, we had a cat named Lily several years ago. She was a very strange and kitten and became very skittish. she would run from you and hide behind things. She would avoid human contact literally all day long. And she then would eat at night and then come get in our bed and purr, seeking attention and affection in the middle of the night. Super annoying. She was also losing weight quickly and saturating her litter box with urine in about a day or two, like seriously, standing urine. I told my wife, I'm sure the cat's diabetic. You you need to have her looked at, or we have to find her another home. My wife continues on that we think that the cat is fine, just unique. I then threatened that she either took the cat to be checked on, or I'd have to be forced to take the cat to be put down, as it was becoming a major issue with the cat tracking urine all over the house. Um, Remember the point of standing urine in the litter box within a day of cleaning it. Um, I was very horrible for this, and my sister-in-law came to the rescue of the poor cat. Long story short, I was right, and the cat had feline diabetes. My sister-in-law lasted less than a month with the cat and had to find it a home, as it was too much for her to manage while she was away, from the house during the day at work. And don't get me wrong, I am an animal lover. We have 3 dogs here. This animal was just a lot to deal with, and we were not getting sleep. And the litter box situation was just gross. Funny enough, she ended up with an old diabetic woman, so they could both maintain close control of their blood sugars together. Yeah, that's it for what I saw in case 3. So, little 5-year-old boy with type 1 diabetes. Like I said, the references are listed. Case number 4, in this case, we saw a 2-month-old female patient presenting with jittery spells several hours after breastfeeding and was presenting with hypoglycemia. The patient also did not have an increase in blood glucose level after epinephrine was administered. An online NIH article, the glycogen storage disease type 1, which is also known as von Gierke disease, is most closely aligned with the infant female patient's symptoms. It goes on to describe von Gierke disease as being characterized by symptoms of hepatomegaly, hypoglycemia, and lactic acidosis. Periods of hypoglycemia appear within increasing intervals between feeding times. This correlated directly with the reported pattern of the baby's experience of jittery spells several hours after breastfeeding. In an article published in 2014, A History of Von Gierke Disease describes the first identification was made in 1929 by von Gierke after reviewing the autopsy of 2 children that both presented with liver and kidney containing excessive amounts of glycogen. Later, in 1952, further studies completed by Corey and Corey identified 6 similar patients. They then recognized that the absence of the enzyme glucose 6-phosphatase was a causative factor for von Gierke's disease. In chapter 18 of our textbook, it describes glycogen as the principal storage carbohydrate in the body, which are found mainly in the liver and muscle. References listed. Both muscle and liver tissue depend on different mediating enzymes to complete their normal processes of glycogen metabolism. In an individual that lacks glucose 6-phosphatase, it would then be almost impossible to maintain the homeostatic balance in terms of both the storage of glycogen and the activation of glycogen as a fuel source for energy. More specifically, the enzyme glucose 6-phosphatase together with the glucose 6-phosphatase transporter are responsible for glucose production by catalyzing the terminal steps of both glycogenolysis and gluconeogenesis. Lacking of glucose 6-phosphatase activity results in buildup of glycogen in the liver, kidney, and intestinal mucosa. Reference is listed on my reference page. Impairment of the glycogen metabolism leads to many long-term consequences. Another very interesting note is that von Gierke's disease is an autosomal recessive pan-ethnic disorder with genetic mutations identified in Caucasians, Ashkenazi Jews, Hispanic, and Asian cultures. Its overall disease incidence is 1 in 100,000 people, but the incidence in the Ashkenazi Jewish people is 1 in 20,000. I found this interesting because my wife is of Ashkenazi Jewish descent. When we had our kids, we were very scared about the potential of having some genetic disorders because of her heritage. Luckily, we made it through the 3 boys so far that have not had any issues, except for one is a um, um, carrier for one of the cystic fibrosis mutations. Yeah, my only last note about that was that group of people are at a surprisingly high risk for multiple genetic mutation diseases. Well, that is all I have to say on these topics at the time. I'm actually about to get off to work shortly. I hope you are all stay safe and healthy. Thank you so much, and goodbye.